The following is a presentation of KSL Sports.
First and 12. A total roundup of BYU and Utah football and the expanded Big 12 Conference. Subscribe to the First and 12 podcast. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio.
Hey everybody, welcome on in. It's your Football Tuesday right here on KSL News Radio. Alex Kirry, Mitch Harper. It is First and 12. Thanks for being on the program here with Mitch Harper. What's up, man? We get to jam, of course, during the week, typically during this program. We'll see each other on the weekend sometimes, depending on where we're at, covering games on the weekend. And we saw each other this weekend at the BYU game. We've got that to talk about. We've got all sorts of things to jump into here on the program. First of all, I want to say congratulations, all right?
Why is that?
You said Cincinnati was going to win this freaking football game against Iowa State last week.
I was riding the Satterfield train first time.
Now that we were not doing. What we were doing was maybe the Brendan Sorsby train.
Yes.
And that's maybe probably where we should start things off here is talking about the biggest game of the week in the conference last week, which was Iowa State falling to Cincinnati. But more importantly, look, the Big 12 will beat itself up. We know this. We'll see this throughout the rest of the year, right? We're going to see teams beating each other up throughout the rest of the year. But Cincinnati has emerged as something that feels a lot like BYU was last year. I don't know if I'm quite ready to say that it feels like, or maybe Colorado. Doesn't feel like the Arizona State situation, obviously.
That's a great comparison. I like that you went that direction.
Give me a second or third place in Big 12 kind of conversation over. But because of where they were last year, and because of where the conversations have gone with Coach Scott Satterfield, which is every time that guy came around at media day, we all kind of looked the other direction, like, oh boy, this guy, he wants to chat with us. And both Utah and Cincinnati are playing. Or both Utah and BYU here in this market are playing Cincinnati. That should scare the death out of every team that had looked at Cincinnati prior, Mitch Harper, and had said, I think Cincinnati might be a nice little notch that one down for a W. How about going to Nippert Stadium now? If you're Iowa State and you went in there and you're down 31-7, I have not seen an Iowa State Matt Campbell team look so disorganized and so out of sorts than they did against this Cincinnati team. And I'm not sure what to think about Iowa State at this point. I'm almost certain that I know more about Cincinnati than I do about Iowa State.
Yeah, Cincinnati is flying high. First time they've got a 3-game win streak in the Scott Satterfield era. So they've actually got some momentum for once. And it's crazy, too, when you think about how Cincinnati – who would have thought that Scott Satterfield might have more job security than Luke Fickell, who left Cincinnati? And I thought that was so crazy at the time because – I really believed had Luke Fickell stayed at Cincinnati, they could have become one of the powers in the Big 12, personally. But Satterfield, it took time, but he's got them rolling now. And getting this win over Iowa State 38-30 was by far the biggest win for Cincinnati and a breakthrough moment for the program. But you brought up Brendan Sorsby. He is so good. He is a dual-threat quarterback, 214 passing yards, 64 yards on the ground. You know, this team's not going to be glamorous. They're not going to probably get much national attention. I think that's not fair because, honestly, it's a little bit of the case of the Arizona State thing last year where because of such low preseason expectations, Cincinnati is not entering the conversation in the rankings. But the last 2 weeks, they have been so good. They had more than 600 yards in that win over Kansas. Cincinnati's offense has put up more than 1,000 yards these past 2 weeks. They are flying high, and they deserve to be a nationally ranked team. I can't believe that they're not.
I was shocked.
They're so good right now.
Yeah, and I was shocked. I thought the same thing. And you know, we look at the thing and go, well, they're receiving votes. You know, it's like, who cares? Like, you know, get them into the top. They should be in the poll. They should be in the poll, and the Big 12 needs teams in this in the polls, right? I mean, and we'll talk about that coming up a little bit later in the hour, but I'm glad that Iowa State stayed in the poll. So yeah, and I think that having one loss against a really good Cincinnati team, or at least a team that we thought. I mean, this is okay. You heard this before? They were 5-7 last year. You know, like, and then this year they're looking like world beaters. They're 4-1 already, right? And so you're looking at a team now that feels like Colorado, that feels like BYU from last year, where they were down here. The expectations weren't just low. They're also looking around going, do you belong? How many conversations have we had with people who are like, does Cincinnati really belong in this whole thing? And like I said, now your schedule that you thought was a little bit of a piece of cake if you're some of these teams who went, hey, sign me up. I got Cincinnati on this thing. I'm also thinking about BYU specifically, who at least Utah gets Cincinnati at Rice-Eccles Stadium, but they've got to play them too. BYU has to go to Nippert Stadium the week before the end, the second to last week of the season. That's after going through a disaster of a middle of the schedule for them that got hard suddenly because it's like, oh, we said your schedule was soft. Sorry, you're going to have to go to Lubbock. You're going to have to go to Ames. You're going to have to go to Cincinnati, which now looks like the toughest stretch. And you've got to throw in your rivalry game on top of it. So now, if across the conference, what's up is down again, and I don't know what to think. Honestly, Mitch, I'm going to be perfectly honest too. This was a Big 12 problem last year. It's becoming an every conference problem across college football. Are you noticing? This is a transfer portal, NIL situation that has turned college football on its head in quick order. And we're watching it happen with teams like Texas, who you're like, I don't even know who this team is. With teams like North Carolina, who you go, I thought you guys were going to be decent. Clemson going, I don't know what's going on here. And then half of the American Conference undefeated right now. So I don't know what to think about college football right now.
Cincinnati's 4-1 right now. They're going to go to Utah on November 1st. There's still some time between that game and Salt Lake. I think they're going to be 7-1 going to
Absolutely.
Salt Lake. And then you wonder where Utah could be. That could be a massive stakes game, and who would have thought that? Utah and Cincinnati potentially on November 1st, and then BYU a little bit later in the season, November 22nd, late into the regular season. So Cincinnati's schedule sets up pretty well for them. I mean, after this Iowa State game this week, they got UCF, then at Oklahoma State, Baylor, and then at Utah. They could really become a national story, similar to that of Arizona State, who had a climb last year. And remember, too, Cincinnati, last year, we forget this, but Cincinnati actually beat the Big 12 champs last year, Arizona State, when Leavitt was
at
out.
Nippert Stadium.
Yeah,
Yes.
So Cincinnati's had some moments. It just didn't feel like it was actually building towards anything. Now it feels actually tangible. And when you look at Cincinnati's team, They got one of the best linebackers in the Big 12 in Jake Goldie. I love that guy. 12 tackles in that game against Iowa State. They got a good ground attack with Pryor, and Sorsby kind of leads it all. I mean, I think it's crazy, but I think that Sorsby might be the best quarterback in the city of Cincinnati right now.
I don't know. Flacco
With how bad the Bengals are playing?
I don't know, but they just got Flacco today. Did you see this?
Yeah, I did see that.
So maybe Flacco's back. He's gonna be a Cleveland beater again.
Maybe Flacco gets the edge over Sorsby.
Flacco shows up. Yeah, it's nobody else, by the way. No, but I what's interesting about that is, and conversely, the Iowa State side of things, where you have Rocco Beck and Abu Sama. Like, these are guys. These are names. These are people that everybody looks at and goes, okay, those dudes are solid in the conference. And look, Iowa State and Matt Campbell, they're not going away because of that one loss. These losses happen in conference, unfortunately. I say unfortunately. Iowa State, shocker, they're not going to be undefeated by the end of the year. I don't know if there's going to be. Texas Tech has the best shot to being undefeated in the Big 12.
It was just shocking to see them down 31-7.
31-7.
They made it a comeback effort, but
okay, so I've got you.
That was surprising.
I've got you and I've got JJ on my show during the week, who both of you guys were like, I feel good about Cincinnati. I'm like, you guys are fools.
I'm buying in,
haven't
man.
you seen Cincinnati over the past 2 years? and instead, I get lulled to sleep by Matt Campbell's steadiness. And Iowa State, by the way, by the end of last year, had absolutely fizzled out. This same group, right? Same head coach, same quarterback, same running back group, they had fizzled out. And I think that the talent dropped off, obviously, with some guys who ended up going to the NFL. Fine. But I just wonder if Iowa State has the longevity. And to take that hit already, maybe it wakes them up. I think an 11-win team, Iowa State last year, was not the team that should have been in the conference championship game. I think we knew that at the end of it, but I think we learned a lot. I think we learned a ton about the Cincinnati team. I don't know if we learned a lot about Iowa State, except for that I think that they're good, and they probably just did not take Cincinnati seriously. Hopefully, everybody else will take that as a cue the rest of the season to go. Cincinnati is no freaking joke, and I'll tell you too, man, they wish they had that Nebraska game back. They are one play away from being undefeated, and they definitely would have been a top 15 team if that would have happened.
That was our 1st and 12 Big 12 game of the week. We'll take a break and we'll get to some headlines from around the conference. It's First and 12. Alex Kirry, Mitch, Harper here on KSL News Radio.